Please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber continues to hear testimony of witness Kang Kek-yeol Alice Dutch. Ms. Sakalwati, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals to today's proceedings. Greffier. Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present. Mr. Nuon Chea is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The witness who is to continue his testimony today, that is Mr. Kang Kek-yeol Alice Dutch, is present in the courtroom. Thank you. President, thank you, Ms. Sakalwati. The chamber now decides on the request by Nuon Chea. The chamber has received a waiver from Nuon Chea dated 16 June 2016, which states that due to his health, that is headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his rights to be present at the 16 June 2016 hearing. Having seen the medical report of Nuon Chea by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 16 June 2016, which notes that Nuon Chea has a chronic back pain and it becomes severe when he sits for long. He also feels dizzy, and the doctor recommends that the chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Nuon Chea his request to follow today's proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs via an audio-visual means. The chamber instructs the AV unit personnel to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nuon Chea can follow. That applies for the whole day. I'd like now to hand the floor to Judge Jean-Marc Lavergne to continue putting further questions to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, witness. Good morning to all of you. Witness, yesterday, when we adjourned, I was putting questions to you regarding the experimentations that apparently were carried out at S21. You thought about this all night probably, and I'm going to put to you a question regarding an annotation that is on a list. And I'd like to focus on the name of a young woman she is 23 years old, and you wrote medical experiment. So let me put the question to you again. Do you know why you wrote medical experiment, and what was the medical experiment that this person was subjected to?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I did think overnight about that matter, but I could not recall anything about that. I have not seen this document either during this proceeding or during the investigation stage. And on another matter, I do not recall that S21 never produced any medicine based on the experimentation on prisoners. There was only one case that is about the 8 pills that I mentioned earlier. At S21,
Fine, thank you. Because you already spoke about the pills at length. There's no point repeating this. Now I'm going to screen an excerpt from a documentary by the name of Die Anker in German, which was produced by East German journalists in the 1980s. In this documentary, a notebook is going to be shown, and it is indicated that one of the doctor cadres at S21 was allowed to carry out medical experiments. First, I would like the AV unit to screen the excerpt in this documentary regarding this medic. This is the image entitled Medic.
Voilà.
So, apparently this person who is 21 years old, according to this document, and apparently this person was called Feng So, corrects the interpreter. On the case file, we have a list of medics in which we can see this name, so I'd like to provide you with this list. This is document E3/10/120 at ERN 010-14173. And this is the fifth person on the page that I just indicated. Do you know Feng So, who was characterized as being a combatant medic, and who apparently entered S21 and as a prisoner on 20 July 1978. Does this name ring a bell?
Aukun.
I do not know this person. The name does not ring a bell to me.
Bien.
Fine. I'm now going to ask the AV unit to screen the excerpt in question. That is to say, the excerpt regarding this notebook. And the excerpt is entitled Medical Booklet. There are two video segments we are going to screen.
Monsieur le témoin, regarde.
Witness, please look at the screen.
Voilà.
The last image has, of course, is not at all connected to S21. That's an error, but I would like now to present the images in which we can read what appears on this notebook. So can we provide to the witness the images, and can the AV unit screen these pages, please?
Alors, j'espère qu'on...
Or is it possible to play the video again, which shows this notebook?
Et peut-être de s'arrêter
And maybe to stop at the first page.
Voilà, donc nous...
So here, there are several pages. These pages were translated by ITU, and these translations are found at E3/719, and in particular at ERN in English 012 48 192. And the image that we see at 10 minutes and 28 seconds and 57 states the following in English.
Human experiment. A 17-year-old girl had her throat slit and her abdomen pierced. She was put in the water from 7:55 p.m. to 9:20 p.m. The following day, her body began to emerge and kept floating. Ensuite, il y a un mot illisible.
Then there's an illegible word.
Ensuite, il y a une autre phrase.
Then there's another sentence.
17-year-old girl was beaten and put in the water from 7:55 p.m. to 12:25 a.m. The girl began. Et ensuite, on a...
And then we cannot read the rest. On another page, we can read the following. So this is at time code at 10:29:24:12.9. Girl followed by an illegible word.
From 7:55 p.m. to 3 a.m. and then had her body emerge. Note: the girl put in the water with her hands tied and her body emerged on her back. The boy put in the water with his hands tied also had his body emerge on his back. Dernière page.
Now the last page, which reads as follows. This is at 10:29:43:18.
Girl put in the water with her hands untied and had her body emerge on her stomach according to the actual examination. Monsieur le
Witness, does this refresh your memory in any way? Did you ever hear about such experiments?
Akon
The combatant Pang So stated that the arrest was on the 20th of July 77, and of course that was the year that I was in control of S-21. And allow me to clarify it again, there was no medical experiments during this period, nor was there any human experiments. From the look of it, this this does not seem like a medical experiment, but seems like somebody played around with that detainee. And this combatant Pang-so, from the photo that I saw, I never saw him at S21. So again, during 1978, there was no medical experiment, nor any human experiments, or any person played around in such a manner with the prisoners.
So you're telling us that you are not aware of such experiments, which of course can be difficultly characterized as medical. However, are you telling us that such experiments could never have happened without you knowing it?
This report did not mention about water or about any experiments had to do with water or which pills or medicine was given to this person. So I must say that I denied its existence.
There might have been a translation issue here. What I was asking you is it possible that these experiments happened without you knowing it?
I believe for more than 50% that it is not possible.
We see that these are experiments in which the bodies of dead people are placed in water. At one point in time, did they consider throwing bodies of S-21 prisoners in water, whether it be in ponds or whether it be in the Mekong?
Regarding this matter, allow me to clarify it as follows. Between 1977, there was a dead body floating and got stuck near the base of Division 920. And the body had a green shirt on. Brother Son Sen said the dead body could be the worker of Brother Vaughan, but Brother Vaughan denied that. And that discussion happened at the party center. And Son Sen said that it was Uncle Noon who asked him to conduct that investigation in order to find out what actually happened. And I went to examine the dead body. The abdomen of the dead body was cut open and sewn with wire. However, the wire broke due to the weight of the dead body. Then a piece of the shirt was cut from it so that I could attach it to my report. and I had to find out from which direction the body floated. I actually throw a petrol container into the water in order to observe which direction it flew. So I dropped the barrel near the station of Naval Unit of 152. And then I had to deal with the issue how many days that dead body was in the water. So the body actually got swollen and started to float. And I asked her to obtain to actually go to do the test at the pond that I said near Street 163 and Mao Zedong Boulevard. So at that time, one or two dead bodies were used for such purpose in order to conduct the investigation. And I concluded that the dead body was not that of a worker, as some said. I made my conclusion that it could be a dead body of a prisoner from Pleiku. And that's what happened with a floating body, and then I conducted the investigation into the matter. And then, of course, I had to find out how many days a dead body could stay in the water before it started to float.
And according to you, the experiments that you conducted for investigation purposes have nothing to do with the experiments that are described in this notebook. These are two completely different things, according to you.
Yes, they were two different things. I asked her to conduct the experiment in order to find out how many days the dead body could stay in the water before it floated.
Yeah.
Fine. You said earlier that you did not recognize the medic whose biography we see in the documentary, the Angkar, the so-named Feng So. However, do you believe there never was a Feng So at S21? Or are you simply telling us that there were many medics and you couldn't know all of them?
I only know chief medics, as I mentioned their names yesterday, including Sat and Tri, who frequently came to my house. As for the ordinary medics, I did not see them.
Fine. Now we are going to turn to another topic, and I would like to return to statements that you made on Monday when you were being examined by the International Co-Prosecutor. So this was at the hearing of 13 June 2016 at around 3:01 in the afternoon. And you were questioned by Mr. Dale Lysack, and he asked you if there were many Vietnamese soldiers who had been detained at S-21. and you spoke about a soldier. Maybe his name is misspelt, but in any case, he is known as Nor. But then later on, you said that this was Vu Ding Nor. So, do you remember this soldier? You said that apparently he was the first soldier who was interrogated, and his interrogation was recorded. Do you remember this prisoner, and what was his exact name?
Akun.
The name of that June prisoner who arrived on that day, that is 6 January 1978. Before the arrival of the June soldier, Uncle Noon told me that the person would be brought in and that we had to interrogate him and tape record the confession so that it could be broadcast on the radio, and that there should be through a broadcast per day. And each segment should last between 10 to 15 minutes. That was his instruction. So Vu Ding Ngo actually is the name of that Vietnamese soldier, Vu Ding Ngo.
Alors, nous
Well, this name appears several times in the S21 documents, in particular in a list E3/8436 at Khmer ERN 000 86 81 9. Can we please provide this list to the witness? Do you recognize the name of this prisoner on this list, witness?
Akun.
Yes, I do. And the age here is 48 years old, which is similar to the appearance of the person that I saw at the time.
Alors, ce nom apparaît.
This name also appears on another list, and the reference is E3/8492, and the list is titled Section for Yuns Who Are Spies. Was that an entirely different category of detainees at S21 titled Yuns Who Are Spies?
At S21, soldiers were labeled as soldiers, and of course, according to their rank too. And the person who came usually were in a lower rank or field soldiers, and that would also mentioned in the registry. As for those who labeled as spies, could not be the soldiers who actually surrendered by raising their hands at the battlefield. Usually they disguised themselves as civilians and were arrested. So these are two separate groups, soldiers and spies. As for Wu Ding Ngo, he was a Yun major, and he could speak French rather fluently. His French was even better than mine, and he could also speak some English, though he could not speak Khmer. So there were two distinct categories, those soldiers and spies.
Est-ce que vous vous souvenez des circonstances?
Do you recall the circumstances under which Wu Ding Ngo, apparently his name in Vietnamese is Wu Ding Ngo, Ngo. Do you recall the circumstances under which he was arrested?
Through my recollection, he was arrested on 6th January 1978, but the date in this document is different. The 3rd January 1978. The date is different. However, I would like to clarify that the interrogation of Yuan started from 6th January 1978 under the instruction that the confession of Yuan should be obtained.
La question que je vous posais, monsieur.
Witness, my question had to do with the circumstances under which that person was arrested. Was he arrested at sea, on land? Was he alone? Can you provide us with details regarding those circumstances?
I did not partake in the interrogation of Wu Ding Ngo. Chan was the one who conducted the interrogation, and there was an interpreter, Pata Chan, assisting Mom Nai. Pata Chan was the interpreter who assisted Mom Nai, who conducted the interrogation at the time, and I cannot recall whether Wu Ding Ngo had been arrested on land or at sea. But what I can tell you is that Wu Ding Ngo was a soldier.
Et un soldat de quelle armée?
A soldier from which army?
Wu Ding Ngo was the former soldier for the southern Vietnam. He was part of the army of President Thieu Thao Ky, the southern Vietnam. And after the North Vietnam captured the South Vietnam, he was transferred to work with the new government.
Alors, les aveux.
Now, Wu Ding Ngo's confessions were broadcast on the radio, and they were the subject of several publications, including a document which is E3/8394. That is a pamphlet published by the Information Service of the Democratic Kampuchea Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the pamphlet is titled Testimony on the invasion of Cambodia by the Vietnamese, published in July 1978. The English interpreter did not hear the reference in French, Mr. President. We also have the document in Khmer. The ERN is 00293980. Let me repeat, 00293980. And in English, since the pamphlet was also published in English, we find this document at the following ERN S 000 11 374. The first bits of information in these confessions concern the circumstances of the arrest of that soldier, described as a former aspirant of the Turkish Marine.
Il était sur un bateau.
It is said that he was arrested at sea with 15 passengers and 25 children aged under 15. Does that refresh your memory, witness? Correction by the interpreter. It was the army of Turkey of South Vietnam.
President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. You may proceed, Antaguisse.
Yes, Mr. President. Thank you. I have some difficulty locating the passage cited by Judge Laverne, and I'd like to make the same remarks I've made over the past few days. The contents of confessions are being expressly quoted, and the witness is being asked to comment on the circumstances described in those confessions, and it is not in line with the decision of the chamber, and it is contrary to the Convention Against Torture.
President, you may proceed, Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just an observation. The broadcast of the fact that these confessions were broadcast on the radio is a obviously very significant fact that's not barred by the Torture Convention. In order to ascertain and confirm that what was broadcast on the radio came from documents from S-21, you need to correlate the two. So there is a very important use of this evidence that is certainly not barred by the convention. I don't think anyone is trying to use this to ascertain the truth of the contents of the confessions from S-21, but more to the process that was involved here, and the knowledge of the leaders and the dissemination of this information obtained by torture for propaganda.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very briefly, let me respond. I do not see how the fact that the confessions were broadcast on the radio would make the Convention Against Torture non-applicable. Let me recall that the Chamber issued a decision that is similar to the objection I'm making today, since at the time the co-prosecutor, Vincent Deville, was the person who wanted to read confessions that were broadcast on the radio, and the chamber refused that those confessions be used for the same reasons I have made today. So the broadcast of those confessions at S21 on the radio doesn't allow these confessions to be used under another set of rules. So I would like to make this objection at this stage, and I would like the chamber to act coherently in light of its decision.
Bien, donc la Chambre.
Very well. The objection made by Counsel Antaguise is upheld. We'll move into another line of questioning regarding Vietnamese prisoners. First of all, as regards those prisoners, you stated that it was Uncle Noon who told you that those prisoners were going to arrive at S21. Is that indeed the case? Was it Uncle Noon who told you that you were going to receive those prisoners and that you had to interrogate them?
Uncle Nguyen said that in general, and he talked to me in general that Yuans would be sent into S21. The broadcast was mentioning about the intention of Yuan to build the Indochina, and that Yuan was the aggressor. He said that Yuan would be sent to me.
Lundi dernier, vous avez dit.
On Monday, this is what you stated at about 15 hours 09:18 seconds. Why did we have to interrogate the UN soldiers with regard to the invasion plan and with regard to the person who issued the order for the invasion? I think it was a waste of time to interrogate them on that point. I contented myself with following the orders of the upper echelon and do what I had to do to push them to confess that they had been sent by their superiors to invade Cambodia and to invade Cambodia in the Indo-Chinese Federation. Why did you say that it was a waste of time to interrogate them on that invasion plan?
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me clarify the matter and what I said. My intention is to tell the truth. I said it was a waste of time to interrogate UN prisoners. The questions which were very important are the intention of their leaders. That information was the important one for the world to be aware of. So we asked only about the invasion of UN. The other matters were useless, and I agreed with this principle by my party.
Donc, selon vous, ces aveux
So according to you, those confessions were going to establish, obviously, the Vietnamese plan, which was to invade Cambodia. Correction by the interpreter. Earlier, the witness said was to integrate Cambodia in the Indo-Chinese Federation.
Thank you. I will not expand on the situation. The intention of us at the time was to allow UN to confess that they came into Cambodia because they wanted to swallow and annex Cambodia into Indochina. In the French colony, the Indochina included Tonkin, Annam, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. So, in the former Indochina consisted of the 5 regions, and other Indochina consisted of Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, and Burma. So, at the time, I understood that that was the intention or the attempt of UN.
Est-ce que ces prisonniers vietnamiens
Were those Vietnamese prisoners tortured?
Yes, but not serious. And they were not seriously tortured, although they were told to confess what I said. So forcing them to say what I just said was not the serious torture.
Bien, je reviendrai ultérieurement.
Very well. I'll return to the interrogation of those prisoners subsequently. I would like to show you another document, and it is E3/10/521. The ERN in Khmer is 01180 411 to 417. Can the document be given to the witness?
La traduction en anglais.
The English translation of this document is available under the following ERN number 011 91 483 to 495. This is a biography of persons who appear to have been detained at S21, and it is series of 5 biographies, and on the first page we read, arrested on the 30th of November 1975 and sent to S21 on the 6th of May 1976. Do you see this annotation or this title?
Témoin.
Look at the first page, witness.
Arrêté le 30 novembre.
Arrested on the 30th of November 1975 and sent to S21 on the 6th of May 1976.
Witness, thank you. I have found it. The document number, the AR number ends at 14. Yuan, who were sent to me, were Nghiên Nhi alias Nghiên Hiu Lang. That person entered 20 kilometers into Cambodia at Koh Tang. That person.
Pas de lire tout le document. Je vous demande tout d'abord, est-ce que vous...
Wait a minute, witness. I don't want you to read the entire document. All I'm asking you to say is whether you recognize the writing on this document. Do you know who wrote that document?
Thank you. I cannot recognize the handwriting. I do not recognize this handwriting. It happened a long time ago.
Est-ce que c'est des...
These biographies that correspond to biographies that are collected when detainees arrive at S21?
Puisque ce ne sont pas, à proprement parler, des aveux.
Since they are not confessions per se.
If you said this document is a biography, yes. This is the biography. Usually biography consisted of 2 pages. This is the brief biography that we prepared at S21, and these individuals were not yet interrogated.
Ces biographies étaient établies à quel moment?
When were these biographies drawn up? Were they drawn up when the persons arrived at S21?
When they arrived, when they immediately arrived at S21. I do not know whether these individuals had already been photographed, but upon their immediate arrival, the biographies were drawn up.
Donc ces biographies correspondent à des...
So, those biographies were written immediately upon the arrival of the prisoners. Is that what I should understand from your testimony?
But that is true.
Bien.
Very well. What I read in this document is that all these prisoners stated that they entered Cambodia's territorial waters for fishing. In what category of prisoners were such detainees included? Was it a category of spies or another category?
President, please wait. Mr. Winesh, you may proceed. Council Antar-Guisse.
Je suis désolée de...
I am sorry to interrupt again. Quite simply, I am somewhat perplexed by the biographical nature of this document, because I see in the ERN in English 011-95308 the note who confesses, which appears to suggest that at a point in time this information was obtained during interrogations. I would like to bring this to the Chamber's attention before we continue with the examination of the witness on this particular matter. Judge Laveng, perhaps we should look at what is said in the Khmer version. It is possible that confessed could also be translated as stated. Where is the passage exactly? Counsel Guisse, my colleague could perhaps indicate it in Khmer. I'm looking at the ERN in English, 011-95308. And here we have paragraph 1, which is titled in English.
Et le deuxième...
And we have the second paragraph which states reasons for the arrest. And in that paragraph on reasons for the arrest, we have the note confessed. My colleague who has the Khmer document will perhaps read it in Khmer for purposes of further clarification. But I'm looking at what is written in the English version. Perhaps your colleague could give the document to an officer of court for the document to be read.
President, Council Kong Samon, could you clarify the issue? Kong Samon, Mr. President, I would like to read it in Khmer for clarity. In the last page of the document, there is a red writing stating note. This name confessed that he or she came to fish, to cook for Yuan, that they came to fish in the area. So in the note, it states that individual confessed. So I believe that that individual had already been interrogated. That's why she or he confessed.
Well, nobody is going to deny that this person was interrogated because apparently, or obviously, to draw up biographies, prisoners had to be interrogated. But witness, can you provide us with your point of view regarding the use of these terms? Are these statements made after the prisoner was interrogated, or were these statements given when the detainee arrived?
Document ending with number 414. Is the production of a detainee who had just arrived. As for the word confession, was due to the limited knowledge in terms of international and national laws by my staff. So for Nguyen Hieu Lang, this document was produced upon the arrival of that individual.
I'd like to put another or a last question to the witness before we proceed. So does that mean that no torture was inflicted upon these prisoners?
The person who was interrogated and tortured was the one who had to be first placed in the cell, and later on the interrogators would take them for interrogation. As for newcomers, upon their arrival, the biography had to be made before they were placed into the cell. In this particular case, the detainee was sitting in a chair opposite the person who was in charge of the registry near the room where photographs had to be taken.
I apologize for getting back to this again. Maybe I have an extra line of questioning here to clarify this point, but Susti said that he would draw up lists, and Susti said that at no point in time when this first interrogation was carried out regarding the name and the position, he knew of the reason for the arrest. So that's a point that needs to be clarified if we want to be sure that we are not using documents that are forbidden. But I would like to remind you of Susti's statements regarding the very basic nature of the questions that were put, and the fact that he himself never mentioned the reasons for the prisoner's arrests. Judge Laverne, it appears to me that Susti said that in order to draw biographies of prisoners, he was being assisted by an interpreter. Maybe we do not have the same recollections, but it was clarified, however, that these biographies were written up before the prisoners went into their cells, that these were written when they arrived in Susti's office while they were sitting in front of Susti.
Just an observation. This document is one of two things. It's either a biography made at the outset, or it's a report from an interrogator. This is not a statement from the prisoner themselves. These reports that are written by the interrogators have been used repeatedly by this court, as have biographies. So this is not a confession statement from the prisoner under any circumstances. It is, I'm not sure, but it's either a biography or it's a report from one of the S21 staff.
Regarding the fact that this is simply a report, well, I remember that when my colleague Victor Koppa tried to use a report in which there were elements that were part of a report, but also that contained elements from a confession, the chamber said that he could not use this document. So now I'm asking for the same consistency. It's not because we're speaking about a report that there are no elements that come from confessions. And upon reviewing this report, we can see that there were elements can see if there's a risk that there may be elements coming from a confession, as the Chamber did when it did not allow my colleague Kopi to use that report.
Can I just ask a question? Are you, just to understand the scope of your argument, are you basically saying no bio should be used because it's a statement in the wider sense?
I'm sorry, I did not understand your question. I have a problem with my headset, apparently. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when there are elements that may come from confessions, there may be elements that were obtained under torture. And these, okay, for the date, the name, that can be authorized by the convention. But now, regarding the substance, here we're dealing with details that are prohibited by the Convention on Torture. So we should be clear. We are not objecting to elements that are authorized by the convention, but when we get into the details, Judge Laverne. So if a prisoner says that I confessed that my name was Mr. Smith, that would be forbidden? Counsel said no, but when we speak about the circumstances of why this person was arrested, and if the person says that, or if this person confesses, of course, an offense under duress, then yes, then we fall into prohibited territory.
Let me say, I agree with that last part. To the extent there is discussion in here about confessing the substance of their confession, of course that's barred. But these reports contain a lot more than that. They contain the biographical information that has been clearly established to not come from torture, and they contain descriptions by the interrogators on the procedure, whether torture was used, the procedure of interrogation. That clearly is not barred by the Torture Convention. So it's really a question of what use you are trying to use the documents for. But I agree with the last part of that, of what counsel said.
So, co-prosecutor, for me to be clear about this, in these bios, the people seem to state that they penetrated into Cambodian territorial waters to fish. Do you believe that this should be forbidden, that we should not use this information? Should we forbid the use of that information?
I think it has to be clear in order to use it, that is something that's coming not from the prisoner, but from information on the reason the prisoner was brought that would have come from the cadres themselves at S21. They would have had some information on arrival as to why the prisoner was brought there. But if it's coming from the prisoner themselves as part of their interrogation, then there is an issue.
Chambre a décidé.
Well, the chamber has deliberated and sustains Council Antergis's objection, however specifying that I have a dissenting opinion on this. I don't know, Mr. President, should we continue or...
Councillor Victor Copper, you have the floor.
Yes, just before you break, Mr. President, I believe there is still an issue of the civil parties having oral submissions on the reparation on the fourth segment of today. I was wondering whether that is still going to happen.
Thank you, Council. It is now convenient to have a short break. We take a break now and resume at 20 to 11. Court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room reserved for witnesses and civil parties and invite him back into the courtroom at 20 to 11. The court is now in recess.